I want to start with a distinction. Creature collectors come with an inherent horoscopiness to them. The creatures a person or a character find themselves surrounded or partnered with are usually mirrors of that person or character. That's true for all forms of partnership. Ash is overly energetic, positive, and goes through the journey always having new things to discover and room to grow, so the unevolved Pikachu is perfect for him, on top of being a great mascot. Psychopathic, absurdly territorial freak he may be, but Kled has a kinship with Scarl. It's a dynamic of bloodthirsty warmonger and immortal sweethearted steed, contrasting their capabilities and mannerisms that lead to constant hilarious bickering and utter triumph and euphoria in the moments where those two night and day differences become one. In the former case, Ash could have been paired with any partner Pokemon, but in doing so, his mirror would have changed and prompted his character to shift to match somewhere along the line. They're complements. While in the latter example, there is and only ever can be one companion for Kled, and it's Scarl. I know it's not necessarily apt to talk about League of Legends in the same breath as creature collectors, but the point I'd like to focus on is the idea of partnership and the relationship a creature and compatriot have and draw out of one another. And it'd be really easy to just go down the list of Pokemon, but I'd never get done with that, and as much as I love them, I want to commit myself to something else. What Pokemon have in quantity, Digimon have in quality. Put your pitchforks down, let me explain. I've got a list, actually. First is that the conventions of Pokemon put more interest in the journey and the growth of your team as you grow as a trainer. Your Pokemon have special moments, but they don't have distinct personalities. Digimon, from the start, always put more emphasis on the tamer's relationship with their partner, caring for and nurturing it until the baby evolves into a rookie, and taking them to exponentially more dangerous heights as needed for the story and your needs as a tamer. Second is that Digimon, partially by nature of being set in the real world TM, is a lot more domestic, and more pressingly, your Digimon can speak your language. There's communication to be had, you can have a discussion, teach them things, chit-chat, and the presence of more developed and distinguished personalities means you have more room to bend the details when it comes to writing them and designing your ideal Digimon partner. Third is Digimon's tone. Shit can get steep. There's far more danger per creature to consider, and that danger, the potential for danger, and the variety that danger can come in are all bullets in the magazine of characterization when all those threats are projected onto the partner. But the conventions, social thresholds, and tone of a Digimon partnership are more in line with the things I want to talk about. And what's that, Numu? I want to talk about the relationship these fantastic creatures draw to themselves, how those relationships fit a mold that complements the creature, or how contrast makes the partnership shine, and the things I see when putting a partner to these sweet and only sometimes gruesome faces in hopes that you will learn something too. Welcome to the Companion Catalog. I'm Numu, coming to you from the box in the middle of everything. Alright, bring him out. We really should have him in a cage or something. You lay a finger on Agumon, I'm putting paws on you. Who better to start with than the poster boy, right? Immediately we have a pitfall to jump. He's an iconic orange lizard that breathes fire. Surely the tamers who have an Agumon are the same trainers who would raise a Charmander. To that I say, sure, there's definitely a bit of overlap, especially taking the range of a Digimon's personality into consideration. You could totally make an Agumon just a big Charmander. But don't think you'll get so lucky with Greymon. In both cases, it's more than just the manageable baby form you have to account for. The most compelling partnerships are mirrored all the way through the evolution line. Agumon is very simple. He's a tiny T-Rex buddy who spits fireballs. A look that pulls from the prehistoric usually implies primitivity to their behavior, and the two most prominent readings of that are Agumon being driven by instinct or, my preference, innocence. Let's detour to that first thing before getting into the meat. And speaking of getting into the meat, as Agumon, an infant so to speak, their instincts would naturally revolve around nothing but survival. Eat, sleep, and preserve yourself, with a bit of hunting tossed into the purely metaphorical salad because there's no universe where Agumons in herbivore. And there we already have a branch that dramatically influences the relationship an Agumon's partner has with them. Do they encourage them to hunt? Do they discourage it? Do they go along with them? Or do they try and break down hunting as exercise and eating and try and come up with a regimen that's a bit more acceptable? Maybe hunting isn't even a part of this particular Agumon's character. Characterization with creatures usually starts with commitment or deviation from the norm. That norm, like I explained, leans on simplicity. Agumon doesn't have social skills or filters. They have needs, wants, and a presumed interest and curiosity about the person that may or may not have raised them from a Koromon. The question is what shape that innocence of theirs takes and how the tamer molds it. Innocent means inexperienced, and it means impressionable. It means a free spirit with an Agumon is going to be putting extra effort to make sure they don't rub off on Agumon too much, and that they get to become their own Digimon. While someone a bit more posh and proper will likely try and turn Agumon against their own instincts, their primitivity, and make something unnatural out of them. My favorite pairings for a creature like Agumon is a partner who gets to be a good influence on them, or a partner whom Agumon gets to be a good influence on instead. I always read Agumon like a Labrador. They can be trained for so many things, but at the very bare minimum, their energy and genuine openness are probably going to brighten their tamer's life. Let's talk examples. Tamer 1 is not a cookie-cutter anime protagonist. Agumon is not usually the partner for a type like them. He's a young man, early 20s, a few close friends, a family that isn't estranged but is definitely worried about his trajectory in life, and one that doesn't really ever go out on his own accord. Or he wouldn't if Agumon didn't always get ideas and want to go visit places. Agumon is innocence, and in contrast with their tamer, they are still entirely enchanted with the things the world has to offer. Agumon's never been to a park before, and they love the park. Even if their tamer is entirely disenchanted, he still doesn't quite have the heart to tell the 3-foot-tall dinosaur making his shoulders damp with his mouth breathing no. And besides, it's fine to take breaks every now and then. Agumon's curiosity and lack of a social filter are helping him reconnect with those friends and family too. He'd be happier if Agumon would keep his mouth shut and not pry about embarrassing stories, or if they wouldn't make a show about trying to learn how to play card and board games that they will never actually remember how to play. But it's less that he's embarrassed of his new partner, and more like he's jealous of them, the sociability, and that now his own friends visit his apartment just to see Agumon. He also just isn't used to sitting across from the dinner table from a Digimon, regardless of if his parents and siblings are completely cool with it, and there we have a crux for conflict, the innocent and eager taking their new life with their tamer in stride and making the most of every moment, and the introverted, disenchanted tamer who's going about this sudden change with caution and skepticism, caring for Agumon but struggling to fully accept their relationship as one of partners and mutuals instead of a master and a pet, a relationship that Agumon has no delusions about themselves. Pets don't see a vacation spot on TV and demand to be taken there. Pets don't usually have an appetite that forces their owners to drastically change their career path, and chances are those changes don't wind up guiding said owner down a rabbit hole of battling other tamers around the world for fame and glory. Agumon's instincts are to fight, while their tamer would much rather let their flight response keep hold of the wheel, and it's another layer of conflict that keeps them at odds and from reaching greater heights. Those unsanctioned battles are easy, since on average, Agumon is just stronger than most other rookie Digimon, especially since they're basically the only pair apart from asshole bullies who aren't racing for the Sanctioned League. But sanctioned fights are worth more and would help Agumon's partner get the, air quotes on the screen, fame he deserves for all of his hard work. And through one reason or another they get dragged into one. They might lose and have to go through an arc where Agumon and others in his life have to help the protagonist get back up on his feet and take another swing at it, or maybe not. Maybe we skip that and get the resolution right off the bat. The realization that Agumon has their partner's best interest at heart, that nothing should be held against the creature as genuine and innocent as them, and that, more than it just being their nature, they want to fight and get stronger because it helps their partner and gives them something to do and enjoy together. Once Agumon's tamer makes that realization themselves and starts seeing Agumon as their own intelligent creature, more than their instinctual needs and wants, and one that cares enough about them to struggle, or on the cusp of taking a bold step past the threshold into a life he'd never imagined before, pulled on by the four-clawed mitts of the little orange idiot who randomly barged into his life, and finally walking alongside them instead of just being tugged along, Agumon will digivolve. And next on their list is how Agumon's tamer gets along with Greymon. It's a jump, and almost always a shock, especially depending on how big that particular Greymon winds up being. But lucky for everyone the site puts on their ass, Greymon's personality doesn't change much from when it was an Agumon. Whether or not that's a good thing depends on the context of the life they live and the clumsiness of the Agumon. I definitely think a kinda stupid and well-meaning puppy dog personality is a really good fit for a bare minimum 10-foot tall fireball-spitting Tyrannosaur. Actually, Greymon's modeled after a Ceratosaurus. Trying to interaction farm here. Unlike a lot of champions, Greymon is definitely not the standard for their line. Sometimes the rookie reads as the champion default restraining themselves to be more manageable, while Greymon reads much more as an enhancement of the base that is Agumon. I'm not quite sure off the top of my head which of those camps is more common, but basically every line of Digimon can fit into one of those two camps. It's a power boost, and there are champion, ultimate, and mega Digivolutions that drastically change the personality of the Digimon, but not Agumon. Not in this line at least. So, does Greymon existing as a new side to the tamer's little buddy change anything about their relationship? The newfound respect that made Greymon possible in the first place says no. His new job as a sanctioned battler and the new lifestyle, whatever his rewards happen to enable or dangle in front of his face, and all the complications in real life that come with that are a metaphorical dinosaur for him to wrestle with, and the literal dinosaur that's a part of all that hullabaloo is in his corner and deepening their bond with him every day. Agumon's innocence as good-hearted earnesty goes a long way for the comfort of their potential trainer. To uncertainty, a partner like Agumon says, don't worry about it, let's enjoy life, have fun, and not think much about the details. While Greymon says, if you want something, I'm going to help you take it. Metal Greymon is actually more of the same. It is a more powerful, more versatile, more efficient machine of destruction, and just being a Greymon with some augmentations, the personality still stays the same. These are Super Saiyan transformations, and this one in particular implies that the tamer is undergoing some influence from outside, or is either in an awkward phase or in the middle of another revelation that will wind up pushing the pair to their peak. At that peak, we'll have War Greymon. It is said that the moment a true hero among veteran warriors awakens to its own mission, it digivolves into War Greymon. This is a reawakening. Greymon comes about from a primary resolution to start being a better version of themselves and to pursue the things that they want. War Greymon comes about after a much more profound revelation, fighting and climbing the ranks for a greater purpose than fame and glory, for example. And for a character like Tamer 1, someone who lived in isolation and mulled their way through a rut for their adult life, a purpose is the sharpest sword you can put in their hands, and whatever that purpose may be, it lifts both he and Agumon to brand new heights, brings them closer together than ever before, and in both of their mirrors they see War Greymon, one of the strongest spearheads in the digital world, and assurance that they are going to reach their goal together. Let's shift the casting a bit. In example 1, we have a case where Agumon brings the best out of their partner, so let's try one where the partner brings the best out of Agumon instead. We're not changing the thesis. Innocence is the buzzword of the day. Obviously, even fictional digital monsters are nuanced, and you can interpret and characterize them however you want, but it's bad practice to change subjects partway through a project. In example 2, it's Agumon who's completely out of their own depth, and their tamer who's in control and shaping their new life with their own hands. She sought out a Digimon partner herself, and is well off enough that caring for Agumon's every need isn't the slightest bit of a hitch. Agumon's confusion about the world is engaged with from atop a pedestal, not from on the ground with them. I'm not calling Tamer 2 a bitch, a brat, or otherwise abrasive. I'm saying they will shower their new partner in hospitality without letting them fend for themselves in the slightest. There's conflict there between the explorative and whimsical side of Agumon's innocence and their tamer's insistence on treating their partner right. One doesn't know what's best and doesn't get a chance to find out for themselves, and the other only thinks they know best and are giving the best they can when they're only slightly less clueless about the world than Agumon is. Treating Agumon's innocence as being sheltered creates a dynamic of both of them needing to break mold and shatter a shell, and the only way they know for themselves is the other one telling them. Agumon is told they have a lot to learn from the moment they appear at their tamer's side, and when their tamer stops being quite so knowledgeable, that sentiment gets bounced back at them and starts the pair on their quest. It's not a good partnership if that partnership doesn't lift all the pieces up, and companions, especially in a narrative context, are best matched with those whose cracks and internal voids they help fill, and who help fill their own cracks themselves. Yes, you can fit a cylinder into a square hole, but it's not about fitting, it's about filling, and making sure squares go with squares. If the struggle's name is finding new horizons, Greymon is a battering ram to knock walls down. And instead of like in example 1 where it was Tamer and Digimon finally finding harmony that made the evolution happen, here it's Agumon paying their Tamer back by taking the lead at their moment of hesitation and opening the possibilities up by force. How? I don't know. Why? I don't know. Everyone, fictional and otherwise, will have a different story and a different breaking point that defines them and their journey. What kind of breaking point would be necessary in a more down-to-earth story for War Greymon or even Metal Greymon to happen? Who's to say this relationship ever reaches that point at all? It doesn't have to. There's no need to push a relationship past the point where it's wholly fulfilling for both sides. Just because Greymon is the final capstone of their struggles does not mean their relationship is any less special or realized than Tamer 1's. That's part of the nuance of partnership. It will always be different. The highs, the lows, the details, the hurdles, everything down to the little things you and your partner enjoy together. Or if you enjoy anything at all, will come down to the parts involved. And that means when writing a relationship up, you have free reign to shape it however you want. This innocence I insist on is nothing but a frame. The painting can go as far as you and your brush want it to. Don't pay too much mind to the boundaries I put this Agumon in, but recognize why I made the frame what it is, and that even then there's plenty of room to interpret. Innocence is easily manipulated. A creature who feeds off of instinct and information is bound to be manipulated, but unlike the other two, Tamer 3's main foil is Greymon, not Agumon. That's because the moment Agumon evolved, his perspective changed. He's been raising Agumon from the start to be a fighter, to earn him fame and glory, and evolving into Greymon was validation for the treatment he'd been poisoning Agumon with, and ultimately winds up being a wedge that makes him treat Greymon even worse. The innocent's mind is perverted with nothing but battle, training, and regimens, and the curiosity that characterized them so much with the other two is swatted away at every opportunity. There's no room for whimsy, just work and improvement. It's not like digital monsters get tired after all. Eventually, Agumon spends more time as Greymon than not. Eventually, they stop asking to go out. Eventually, they reach a new breaking point, brought on as a result of all that increasingly rigorous training and insistence on being the best battler they can be. And instead of Metal Greymon, Skull Greymon takes the stage. And this is fun for approximately 5 seconds. This is also probably as far as the problem goes, but we're here to evaluate, so let's explore some possibilities. Possibility 1 is that Tamer 3 is killed. This outcome will come back in the future. Possibility 2 is that Skull Greymon, no longer able to be controlled or reasoned with, is killed instead before they can get out of hand. And the third is that despite the mindlessness, Skull Greymon still follows orders and is now Tamer 3's perfect partner. They are an overly destructive, violent tool for fighting, winning, and nothing more, and that is what finally gets mirrored. Skull Greymon's actual only purpose is fighting, and in Skull Greymon's birth, the Tamer slowly loses or shoves away all other purposes of theirs in pursuit of being the strongest. This is villain behavior, but I didn't say the partnership had to be good, I said it had to be flush. Oh, but Agumon's the Digimon of a protagonist and has an evil counterpart, so he has to be the Digimon of someone who's good. Put a sock in it. Have some nuance. There are Digimon that are inherently good and ones that are inherently evil, but part of Agumon's charm is their innocence, their impressionability, the possibility for them to become a mirror for whatever partner happens upon them, for better and for worse, and it's an Agumon that we have an exercise. Anyone can be paired with an Agumon. This is a mascot of a Tamagotchi adjacent brand after all. It'd be a flop if the goddamn mascot wasn't one anyone could see themselves with, and it's there that this little goober's beauty lies. How does your own Agumon turn out? How does your character turn out if they have an Agumon? What does innocence, earnesty, and impressionability draw out of the person, and to what heights are the person and partner willing and able to lift themselves up to? It's not always going to be about these things in specific, but that's what I'm here to discuss, and I'll see you all next time when we talk about Agumon again. Right here, coming to you from the box in the middle of everything.